Content modeling is the process of breaking down content into small, meaningful, and logical pieces. How am I going to reuse this content right from the start? It's not the same as being boring.
Welcome to the Supercharged Marketing Podcast. I'm Pius, the VP of Growth at Lumen5, an AI video creator made by marketers for marketers. This podcast is a rally call for those who believe in purposeful content, brand storytelling, and thought leadership. We feature insights and best practices from forward-thinking marketers and B2B leaders, daring you to stand out in the rapidly evolving world around us. Are you ready to supercharge your marketing? Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Supercharge Marketing. Our goal here is really to connect you with the industry leaders with the expertise to share and talk about all things marketing so we can all grow together and learn together from our shared experiences. I'm very excited to introduce Timi Stoop-Alcala, the principal content strategist who heads up the global experience and content strategy for IKEA, the multinational Swedish furniture company. You all know IKEA. Now, Timi's based close out of Amsterdam and has been in content marketing and brand strategy for over 25 years, working with a ton of companies, helping them grow their brand and business through thoughtful connection with their customers. Timi, welcome. Maybe tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came into marketing and content and how you ended up at IKEA presently.
Hello, Pius, and hello, everybody. I'm so excited to be here. I hope our audience picks up a couple of interesting things from our chat today. So I'm Timi. I'm based in the Netherlands. I hail from the Philippines, and I've had the good fortune to have played various roles in diverse teams from different countries. So I've been a copywriter, a requirements analyst, a content product owner, and also worked in advertising, in digital and UX agencies. But Pius, my first job ever, don't really have much to do with marketing or with content, or so it would seem. But so my first job actually both involved teaching, and I was a lecturer right after graduating from the university. I really appreciate the skills that I developed during those days. And really teaching has influenced me greatly the way I think about strategy, marketing, and content because of the way that as a teacher you need to really understand your learners and your students, and so really putting people in the center of your lesson plan, of what you want to achieve, and looking holistically at your goals and objectives, and those skills and those life experiences have really helped me in the way I approach content and marketing. In fact, I'd say my content maxim is content starts and ends with people, and it rises and falls with relationships, and that's really something I hold dear. And that's something also that's reflected a lot in IKEA as a company. That really values human centricity.
I love that connection with people and marketing, right? I mean, I think at the end of the day, we're all trying to make a connection with folks that we've never met before, because marketing very much is a one-to-many connection. So how you connect with people is through the content, through the things that you put out there.
Yeah.
And you really do need to understand how people think and feel and see things in order to connect with.
Definitely.
Great. Well, I'm very excited to have you join us today. I know the last time we chatted, Timi, you spoke on some very interesting thought processes and mental models around how you at IKEA manage the content strategy, starting with a structure-first mindset and approach. I'd love to dive into that today, kind of giving us a little bit of a behind-the-scenes look at how you and IKEA approach creating content across all of your channels for that omnichannel approach. I also loved how you aligned it with that human-centric approach and looking at content structure as the foundation for great content strategy, and how no one can deny that IKEA doesn't have great content. I mean, you paint an amazing picture of life and living through all of the content on IKEA, and I'm sure that's all intentional. So I'm excited to get into everything with you.
All right. Well, let's see. Let's step back a bit, and to give you a bit of context then. So my team, which is the Content Center of Expertise in the Experience Design Group. So our purpose is to cultivate quality, innovation, and confidence in content using a broad set of human-centric design principles and systems thinking. And by having this purpose, that's really something that guides us in, trying to create, strategic focus in our content, and looking at content really as indeed basically made up of people and relationships. And this I would like to emphasize like the third like purpose that we have, which is around confidence. And I think that's really important, that in the kind of strategies that we create and in the innovations that we propose, that we try to instill and cultivate confidence in content. IKEA is very good with creating a lot of really human-centric stories, um, filled with emotions, joyful, iconic, playful experiences. And what we thought, how could we even make that better, is to look at the structure of content. And by structure, I mean the thing that you don't usually see when you look at content. When you look at a video, for example, or an article, and you're just seeing what's on the screen, or you're just creating assets. But there's a whole lot of processes and a whole lot of structure, behind that content. And so to be able to be better in creating the structure for content, think Lego. So we have Lego, right? And we all know that the very simple structure that it has is no way limiting the kind of creativity that you can do with it. And yet it's just built off this, small building blocks, right? But you can do so much with it. And when Lego was created, it wasn't intended, for just one single purpose or one single form of expression. It can address, or it can be there. It can be used in so many ways. So that's what structure is about. It's like the blueprint for a house that you're making, or if you're trying to create a painting, you already have something in your mind. And then you do the sketches, right? And how to be better in those processes. We can translate that into content structure. And so when we do create better content structure, we have to think of like, what is a content really made of, and we have to try to break it down into meaningful and logical pieces, smaller pieces, with the aim to reuse it later. Then you can and make it smarter so that you can reassemble it. So it's really a lot like Lego, that kind of principle, and leaving a lot of creativity, for somebody to express themselves using a very structured building block.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. I love that. And it hits really close to home. I think when you say a lot of people think that structured content means limitations, but it actually opens up a lot more possibilities, because it enables the creativity of somebody while staying within some of the structure that's created. And within Lego, that's exactly like that. I think when you speak about that, my son, he's 5 and he plays with a lot of Lego, and we buy him these sets that's supposed to be made for one thing, and he builds it, and then a week later he'll take it apart and he'll make other things. And the things that he creates from his imagination are amazing, but they stay within the confines and the pieces. But the creativity that he has is there. And I love what you said last time. I think you compared it to something like Play-Doh, where there is no structure. You could build anything. But when I think about him playing Play-Doh, he doesn't enjoy it as much because it's too vast and it's too much. And I think for someone like him.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Play-Doh has its own, place and purpose. But I think when you're thinking of creating content in a daily, and in large scale, and if you want to scale, then you need to really think of structure. Then you need a more Lego mindset, and that's what our what we call our connected content strategy is about. When we say we want to be able to reach, to provide relevant content to the many people, how can you best do that? Our content needs to undergo a transformation, and not just in what you would publish or what you would show, but in how you really create the structures for it to enable it to flow between systems efficiently
Mm-hmm.
and to be adopted into different experiences. And that's coming to your point earlier about omnichannel, because that's what omnichannel is. It's being able to provide content in all channels.
Mm-hmm.
That's one, but also meaning that you can adopt that content. It can be consistent experiences no matter the touch point. So our customers and our coworkers should be able to experience unique, personalized, relevant content whenever they want and wherever they choose. And that's the hardest part, though. That whenever and wherever they choose and want, that's not just going to happen. You need to build the systems for that, the process, etc. So that's our focus, building the foundations for that structured content to be connected and to be ready to go, ready to meet
Yeah.
and escape from the confines of a page. So thinking of value beyond the page.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I guess when you're talking about that, and you mentioned blueprints earlier and kind of painting with the sketches first for architecture wise and setting the foundations and plans and 10 steps ahead for what this content could be used for. When you talk about content structure strategy, is that what you do
Mhm.
in terms of before you even create that first piece of content, you're thinking 10 steps ahead for where this could go and what channels this could be used for?
Um, well, we always think, of course, when you think strategically, then you try to anticipate, right? And you have a starting point, and you have a vision. You have a clear direction of where do you want to go.
Mm-hmm.
And for us, being able to anticipate, you can't really tell, like, okay, where will this content end up, how it's gonna look like. I mean, you have some form of control, but really, the way that people now access content, it has changed so radically, and they demand content. They just want it to be there, right there and then. And if they don't get it and in the way they want it, that really leaves a bad mark, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we can't, as much as we want to manage our content, you can't really control in the end what's going to happen to it. But what you can control is the structure. And when you think of, if I'm enabling this content to be ready to become anything in a way, like I don't have to only display in one way, because I will be able to be displayed in the best and the optimal way that's best for a particular channel. Then that's the best way, to make sure that you're kind of future proofing your content. So of course
Yeah.
you need to think ahead in the sense of um, what are the scenarios where my content will be relevant. What does my audience need? What are their demands, and how can this make them better? But it's not really uh, more than that. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
what we'd like to focus more on is thinking ahead in terms of what kinds of purposes will this structure be able to address. Maybe you just have one kind of structure of content, but that will be able to address different communication purposes. That's the beauty of structure then. And
Mm-hmm.
for me, then that's the way to kind of think ahead.
Yeah. So how does IKEA do this? How does you and your team do this within IKEA now, and how can other companies also kind of emulate this kind of strategy?
Yeah, so we've introduced, the concept. Well, our team didn't introduce it. There were already some teams working on what we call content models, but
Mm-hmm.
my team is a driving force in more like uh, championing, this change, because structuring content is really a lot about change. It's a change movement basically, because you're asking people to think differently and to work differently with content by thinking structure first. And so, content modeling is one of the disciplines that and one of the capabilities actually that we're developing in IKEA. And when we say content modeling, that's really a different way of storing, and creating content. So we have models, and that's represents the structure, and and it's a process. We're not totally there yet. We still have to do more, but we have a good starting point. So we're trying to create different content, but making sure that there is a content model, for this kind of content, and that we have the processes in place to support this kind of modeling. So content modeling is not unique to IKEA. There's already a lot of companies doing that, and the whole thinking around like modeling content first, is reflected in many content products. So what we do it is as much a technical technology technological change, but it's also very much a mind shift and organizational change, because you need to be able to support this. So orchestrating, the different teams and doing a lot of knowledge sharing. What is content modeling? What is content structure? How can I apply this? And why is this important for business? Why is this important for users? Because ultimately, that's why we're doing this. It's a change for the better for both business and for our audience.
Yeah, maybe you can jump into a little bit about what content modeling means to you and to your team.
Yes. Well, content modeling is the process of breaking down content into small, meaningful, and logical pieces, and using taxonomies and metadata also to be able to identify these different types of content and reassemble them, and so that you are actually building reuse in content. So you're thinking of, how am I going to reuse this content right from the start? And when you content model, say, for example, instead of thinking of, okay, I'm going to create a how-to article, I'm going to write this. It's going to be 5 pages long. It's a very detailed how-to. Instead of thinking of it in that way, first think of, but what is it? What is this how-to about? As a piece of content, not about the subject matter per se, but as a format almost. So a how-to is meant to teach someone something through a series of steps. There needs to be instructions. There needs to probably be a set of ingredients and materials. So you have to think of it like from that level, and then you model what a how-to should look like. So there should be, of course, there'll be a headline, there'll be a title, but there needs to be maybe a summary of the important, the overview, of what this how-to will be about. And then you will probably have ingredients, like a recipe. That's a great example of structured content, because it's all modular, and it has very all the different pieces. They have clear purpose. What is, you have steps, you have ingredients, you have instructions, and they're all meant to achieve something. So thinking of content in that way, instead of just thinking of it as something that will take 5 pages long. If you think of structure of content modeling, if you model your content, and if you think of like a how-to content as something that you can structure and is made of different building blocks, you can reuse those building blocks later on. You can maybe use the image in another context. You can use the steps to display in another design. It seems very simple, but actually to be able to do that, you need models instead of just for example, saving it as a whole document, because then you cannot take it apart. So that's what we mean by content modeling. And so, as I said, this is something that, of course, you need platforms for this. You need systems, but at the same time, you need teams who know, okay, how does this affect the way we brief content, or the way now that we're going to request content.
Wow, that's amazing. As you were saying that, I see the connection between how you create your content and also how you create your products as well. And the thoughtfulness that goes behind using one piece for multiple pieces in of furniture,
Yeah,
for example, right? It's like that. It's like Lego. If I can break
exactly.
it apart
Very,
and use it for multiple pieces, that's a useful little brick for me. And for you, it's a useful piece of content that you can use across now multiple different channels, multiple different contents that you've created once, and you're repurposing for a lot of different use cases.
exactly. So really thinking of, hey, this model that I make, I can apply it to
Mm-hmm.
different things. I can make several types of how-tos. Maybe it will be about different things, but it's all going to be stored and managed in this structure,
Mm-hmm.
in this way. And so, yeah, you create efficiencies for your content. And it's also the end result, it becomes clearer content. So it's also good
Yeah.
and should be, of course, good for the end user. Because
Yeah.
when you structure it, then I, as a user, I know what to expect. I can see what are these clusters of information or these, like almost like blocks of content.
Mm-hmm.
I understand what it's about. So, especially if you think of there's so much content, so many marketing messages that a person encountered daily. It's just too much. And
Mm-hmm.
structuring content in this way also sends the signal that you respect their time and
Yeah.
you respect the energy that they have to put in trying to understand what's your content about. There's nothing worse than you might have great content, but if it's badly structured and I'm going to waste time trying to figure out what is it that you're telling me and is it relevant for me, that's
Yeah.
really a no go. That
That's
we
yeah.
should yeah create value for the end user by simply presenting clear, well structured content, and not just
Yeah.
on the front side but on the back side. So creating all those the structure to support clear, well laid out and well thought of content.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that also ties into what we do at Lumen 5, really as a structured
Exactly.
video creator, right?
Yeah.
And our goal here at Lumen 5 is to make a structured video creator, which means it's on brand, it's easy to create, anybody can do it. Just like building Lego, it's built to brand specs. And I think a lot of that heavy lifting is done in the front, where if you have a good thought, a good layout, a good plan for how things go together, everything becomes a lot easier in the building stage and in
Yeah.
the putting together stage. So that's where I think the structured piece comes in. And earlier you'd also mentioned, a lot of people think that structured content means limitations, but you're right. It actually opens
Mm.
up a lot more possibilities in what you could do because it's been nicely laid out. It's been built in the beginning and all the heavy lifting has been done already and the pieces kind of fall together.
Exactly. And that's really helpful for governance. So
Mm-hmm.
managing
Yes.
your
Yeah.
content and knowing, you keep on producing a lot, and you need to be able to know what to do
Mm-hmm.
with it. And so especially for larger companies, but even for even for a startup or a small proprietor, the demand for content now to create so much content,
Mm-hmm.
that's gonna
Yeah.
overwhelm you
Yeah.
very soon, sooner
Especially if you
rather than
start over
later.
every single time. Yeah.
Exactly. If you need to start over every single time, that's just really gonna burn you out. Um, so that's what I appreciate, like from, as you said, for structured video.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it actually helps a lot that you have a structure to rely on, and that structure is also not just um, it's not just something that's without basis.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually the best structure to be able to relay your message, and it's also it's the best structure that can integrate with other systems, so you don't have to bother about that, and so
Mm-hmm.
you have that in place and you have more time to actually focus on the message or on
Yeah.
what is it that you're trying to say, what are you trying to achieve, and you can have that consistency, which is very, very important. It's not the same as being boring. Consistency is not the same as
Yeah.
it's the same old thing. It's consistently delivering value, and knowing that this is what my audience needs and this is what I'm gonna
Mhm.
give them, and I'm gonna be able to do it again and again and again. So there's nothing
Yeah.
boring about that, and that is actually gonna help you be more creative because you have a structure you can rely on. So that's what I mean. That structure actually helps set content free. It liberates it, from the less important things. So the creator itself also can focus on actually creative part of
Mhm.
content.
Oh, I love that. It sets it free, and that's so true. We talk a lot about repurposing content these days, and that's also
Hmm.
because teams are smaller. There's a lot more content that content creators need to
Yeah,
create, a lot less time to
yeah.
do so. So a lot of folks are repurposing content, and I think some do it well, some not so much. But the ones that do
Hmm.
it well very much look at purposeful repurposing, and they take the pieces from that one piece of content and then repurpose into different channels, but knowing what those channels are supposed to deliver, what that content channel is supposed to get into. And they deliver the content with value and not just repeating the same things, but doing it differently within the
Exactly.
same structure. So I think that
Yeah,
works well to that omni-channel approach as well.
exactly. You cannot go omnichannel without structured content
Yeah.
because you cannot. There's no way that you can manually create, produce the content and simultaneously
Mm-hmm.
do it, for every channel and for every possible context. That's not just possible.
Yeah.
So you
this is
need to think
hard. Yeah.
structure.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
earlier, I also loved what you said about giving people value, right? You don't want to waste people's times, especially with content. And there's so much to
Mm.
consume these days. And, people kind of flip
Yep.
flop between entertaining content, educational content, and that all really
Mhm.
builds into a brand as well. And that balance between educational and entertaining, looking into how you've always created content and how IKEA does it as well with that human-centric approach and how you tie content into human needs and emotions. What does that mean to you, and why is that important?
I've always believed that content is um, equivalent to people. It's a representation of your interaction with people, and
Mhm.
that's why I would argue that everything is content actually, because it's especially in digital, it's your only like interface actually with your audience,
Yeah.
and that's why you need to think content first, and think how can I design around this content product um, that is important for my audience. So it's important that you're creating something that will elevate people to greater heights. If you think of content as one maybe, or if not one of the best ways that you can reach your audience and that you can actually make a difference in their lives, which is I think what every brand aspire to do. Um, then you're going to think of making sure that your content is user centered, that you make sure that you have a place for good user experience and research, and integrating that in the way you create content. You're creating content,
Mhm.
at least business content. In any case, it's not for you. It's always supposed to serve your audience. So if you think of content as a service and as a product, and if it's a content as a strategic business asset, then you're going to right develop it the way you would develop other products. That you're going to try to see, is this something that my target audience want to use? And that's also the essence of, I think, product development. That how can you ensure that you keep on building something that people would actually want to have and would actually
Yeah.
want to use? You should have
Yeah.
that same mindset for content. So really, thinking people first, what is it that they need, and how is this reflected in the kind of information that they would want, and what
Mhm.
kind of content can I craft that would be a vehicle for this information, the kind of information that they need, and where should I distribute this, and hoping that it comes to to your audience at the right moment.
Yeah.
So right content at the right moment, easier said than done though, as a lot of everybody knows. But that's still the goal, I think. It's just harder now because every enterprise would like to do omni-channel content, but then that really requires a better understanding of how you bake in relevance in your content, and you can only be relevant if you're an expert in the needs of your user. So
Yeah.
I think a content strategist, the marketer, they need to also be basically user needs experts, and that's I think the core of a human-centric approach to content creation.
I love that. And yeah, I think you do it well. I think IKEA does it well, where every piece of
We're
content really
still learning
attracts
every
the
day.
user. Yeah, that's
Yeah, that's
amazing.
that. At least that's what IKEA is good with. Those iconic moments and
Yeah.
being very in touch, like with the emotional aspect of content. But yeah, we still learning. And IKEA is very much one of the values is how can we continue to evolve and grow, and be different with a meaning, not stay comfortable. So it's a challenge. So our team, we still need to do a lot. Our organization still need to do a lot of collaboration. That's key also in omnichannel content development. How do we collaborate? And actually creating structure is a great way to break silos because you need to think
Yeah.
holistically, and it's your ticket actually to connecting to other teams. So structured content all actually demands collaboration. So that's a great way to break content silos, because that's also one of the biggest problems I think in content, in any content aspiration, that there's just a lot of silos that bind and imprison content. But yeah, that's a common story. But structured content
Yeah.
is key to that, at least.
Well, especially when you said earlier that everybody owns content to some degree, and if everybody's off in
Yeah,
their own silos creating content from scratch, that creates a lot of off-brand and unstructured and
yeah.
unorganized content that
That's
could
where
be
all the
very
pain comes
detrimental
from.
to a company. Yeah, yeah, right, and
Yeah.
that destroys company strategy.
Yes, and just makes people unhappy about the
Mhm.
content they're creating. So you kind of
Yeah.
lose the creative inspiration. But yeah, so I think it's important then to realize like that structured content, or any of our aspirations for how might we improve content, it's all a part of a change movement. I personally, it has helped my team and helped me to consider um, you know this the quest for connected content, the quest for structured content, as a change movement. And if it's a change movement, then we kind of you need to change the way you also approach um, creating the conditions for the outcomes you want. It's not going to happen overnight, especially what I was describing about making content flow efficiently from one system to another, or
Yeah.
adapt consistently from one experience to another. That's hard, and we know that. That's where we are at the moment. But what I do in at least my team, we try to find content soulmates. They don't necessarily need to be also doing content, but they believe like in the need for good, well structured content. We find those soulmates. And also in your team, for example, if you want to change something, then I think the smallest unit of change is a duo. Find that someone and be a power duo. Show examples of well structured content. Show structured videos, because it's easier to show like, why is this cool? Why is this good? And create it, experiment, prototype, and show the change. That's going to go a long way, and that's what we're trying to do. Part of half of our work is geared towards that, really, finding our content soulmates and trying to create little or small beacons of change, as we call it. that's a way for us to to stay happy. I think in doing a lot of a lot of the changes that we aspire for in content.
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much, Timi. This has been super cool to chat about. If there's one thing you'd want to leave our listeners with, one piece of advice, what would that be?
Scale is a structure. So find that piece of content that you're comfortable with and try to see how can I make the structure better. What can I do next week with this that can be better? And collaborate and have a clear purpose and just do it and just show it. It sounds super simple, but it's really for us that has worked very, very well. Just do it. Find somebody who believes in you and do it together.
Oh, I love that. Content soulmates.
Yes, content soulmates. We are believers of that. You're our content soulmate now.
Yeah, we are. We're connected.
Yeah, we're connected with our structured vision.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
For content.
I love it. The Lego piece, I'm going to take that away, and I think that's a very, very amazing learning and something that we'll share with all of our listeners. But thank you, Timi. We always want to keep our episodes short and impactful, and we hope you found value in what you heard today. And that really is our goal, is to connect you with the industry leaders with expertise to share so we can all grow together. As always, keep making purposeful content in this B2B world, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks for listening. Bye, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. If you like this episode, hit subscribe and rate us wherever you listen to your podcast. Or leave a comment if you're watching on YouTube. If video is not already part of your marketing content strategy, it's not too late to start. Create amazing videos with Lumen5's AI-powered video creator without the need for any design or video editing experience. Check us out at lumen5.com to supercharge your marketing, or follow us on LinkedIn for updates and resources. As always, keep making purposeful content in this B2B world. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.